Welcome to the BAM Pod. All right, welcome in everybody to the BAM Pod. I'm your host, Big Ed, and on the line tonight, I have got the man who went up and won the Pro-Am event on the Columbia River in Boardman, Oregon, Mr. Zackery Shaff. Come on in, man. Welcome into the show.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me. Looking forward to this.
Oh man, it was one of those tournaments that you did something that not only made it a little tougher, but Friday came up, wind was blowing, and I'm going to ask you about that a little bit. But that wind was blowing. Michael Bray and Mark Lassane, they're the ones who make those decisions. They look at that water, they check it out, and they went, you know what, we have to cancel this. It's just not safe to be on that water out there. All of Friday was canceled. Saturday rolls around, it lays down. You get 2 solid days, Saturday and Sunday, to go out there, do the best you can, catch the fish you can, and you had to compete against. I think this is part of it that really makes it the difficult part that I'm talking about. Is normally we have Friday, then you have Saturday, then you have the most feared day in all of bass fishing, and you have cut day. And that right there would have taken you and dropping you from having to fish against 65 boats down to 10 boats. You didn't do that, man. You went out, took the challenge, and you went against 65 boats for 2 days and walked away the champion. That is impressive right there, man. And I want to talk a little bit about that. And I want to talk a little bit about, how it kind of felt to go out there. But let's start with, what did you think about Friday? And do you think that was the correct decision? And you're a guy who comes from Richland, Washington. You've been around, you've seen that water. Was that the correct decision to make to cancel day one?
Yeah, that's something I'm not really sure. I think it probably was the right decision. Um, and I'm not gonna to sit here and judge BAM and saying it was right or wrong. The reason I think that it was right um was because they know the field. Like
Right.
the BAM tournament director knows the field that's competing, and knows what they're capable of. If this was like a you know Boardman, Oregon, Tri Cities river rat tournament, people that run this river all the time, I think we would have gone and been fine.
Okay.
And I was actually kind of hoping that we would go because I think it gave the locals a competitive advantage, like a pretty big one.
Yeah.
And so I was a little disappointed personally that it was canceled, for that reason, and also just the shortened tournament, making it 2 days with the full field.
Yeah.
I think brings up a little bit of randomness that also I would have, as a local, preferred to avoid. It ultimately worked out in my favor. I got the big bites that I was worried other people were going to get. But that shortened 2-day tournament, I think actually probably made me nervous. It was going to hurt me. In the long run, it worked out. So I'm certainly not upset about it now. But I was a little worried about some, a random 7-pounder, somebody else catching it, but I got it. So.
I was gonna say, I've been on that water a couple times, not much. By no means am I know that water. I would definitely never call myself a local on that water like you are. But I do notice that, last year we were up here. I think I saw 2 largemouth caught all during the entire tournament last year. This year, there were some largemouth coming in. That fishery is not known for largemouth, in my opinion. Like, that's when I talk to guys, they're talking about big smallmouth, going after smallmouth, and that's what they're catching. What is the difference? What is it that you did a little different? And you don't have to give away your baits, or you're not to give away, but what was it that you did a little different to target largemouth? And how did you really know that? I mean, other than just being a local, was there anything that you're just like, there's going to be largemouth in these areas, or were they all kind of blended in together?
I mean, I was certainly fishing largemouth areas. The areas I focused on
Mm.
were blended though. So it was
Okay.
Largemouth were there, and what I thought, and although it kind of turned out not to be the case, I thought there were a lot of big smallmouth there too. um, and I've seen them in the river this time of year, both in the Tri Cities pool and down here in Boardman, um, blend together at times. And that's what I was targeting. I was targeting that environment where any cast I could catch a big largemouth. Um, because I thought that to win this tournament, you'd have to have, your solid base of 3 pound plus smallmouth and a big bite. Um, and that big bite could have been a big smallmouth. But I just think that those 5 and 6 pound smallmouth are so hard to target because they're moving. Like they'll be one place one day and 10 miles away the next day, it seems. Where the largemouth kind of sit and stay.
Yeah.
So if you can find one, it'll usually be there within the next few days.
All right, that's pretty interesting because when I go out on the water, I'm looking at this thing, and it's not quite like the California Delta. Like there's not a lot of out of the water grass, but there is a ton of grass in the water, and then there's a ton of rocks in the water. There's a ton of stuff. It is a really interesting. It's very clear water, which is not something that you usually think of when you think of a river. I don't think of rivers usually being super clean. I think of them, it's constantly moving, so things are being, brought up and that sort of things being stirred up. When you go out there on the Columbia River and you are looking at that thing, are you looking? What is the main focus? Is it grass or is it rock or is it current or is it what is it that you're kind of looking for? Because I mean, there is kind of everything out there. There's flats, there's grass, there's everything that I could think of except for like flipping toolies or flipping brush like that. I don't really see too much of that, but only in the pool I went in. There may be somewhere you were at.
Big things are happening in Boardman, Oregon. At the heart of it all, the Boardman Chamber of Commerce and Boardman Community Development Association, working together to create opportunities, support local businesses, and build a thriving community. From new business growth to family-friendly events, workforce development, and expanding local resources, Boardman is making it happen. Looking to live, work, or invest in a growing community? Boardman is ready for you. Boardman's Community Development Association, strengthening Boardman's economy, one project at a time.
Yeah, you're right. There are toolies and stuff to flip. This time of year, sometimes depending on the water level, they get a little shallow. But in the Boardman pool, there's less of that. And then up in Tri Cities, I really was focused on kind of the combination of the three elements you were talking about. Weeds have to be nearby. That's where the consistent food source lives. So I think you need to be near grass of some kind. But the fish don't like to live in a lot of the grass types that we have, like to be in them constantly. So I want to have some clean rock nearby. And current always plays. So in earlier in the year, closer to pre-spawn activity, you can get out of the current and still catch a lot of fish. But I think this time of year we're firmly in the post-spawn and they're kind of feeding back up and getting into their standard late summer fall pattern. Current is gonna be involved, and so I didn't venture too far away into the back of any pockets or anything. Stayed somewhere where the current was there, but not not directly influencing the areas I was fishing. It was close. It was nearby.
You mentioned in there where the food source lies. I talked to a few people. I still don't really know anything other that's on that water except like I've heard salmon smolt, right? What is the main focus? Like what is the food that's in that water? Because I don't see a lot of like I saw bait fish on the screen when Mark and I were out, but it's like I go, what is that? And he goes, I don't really know. It's like perch, it's bluegill, it's bass, it's like maybe some salmon. He doesn't really know either. So it's like, you know what? As a local guy, let me ask the local guys, what is the main focus of food that you're looking at up there?
So this is a little seasonal.
Okay.
And the thing that particularly impacts the Boardman Umatilla pool um, more than the Tri Cities pool is American shad.
Okay.
American shad run up the river in summer, and then they spawn. They broadcast spawn, and they make little shad babies.
Okay.
And I have this theory that is not validated, but is my personal opinion that when American shad babies are in the river, it is the primary food source of every bass.
Okay.
Um, they seem to just like it. Like
Yeah.
they like it better. And I think it really to me explains why this pool and the upper pool by Tri-Cities fish so differently. Is there's a lot of those mature shad don't run above McNary Dam, so there's just far less shad up the river, and so those bass behave differently. And a lot of this isn't how the tournament was won, but a lot of people were fishing, and it's a very solid technique. And a couple of years ago, I placed back in the Wild West days, top 10, doing this, fishing out deep in the Umatilla pool near Boardman, near the Blaylocks. Those fish are really keying on schools of shad.
You know, I'm sitting here listening to this, going the shad, and when I think about American shad, I may be right on or I may be off, but when I think about American shad, I've actually gone out and fished for American shad. Like I have gone out and been at the Sacramento River down there in Sacramento, and thrown like little shad darts and that sort of thing. Is that the size? I mean, these things are like a pound and a half, 2 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the size that's running up and then spawning?
Yeah. So they're big. They're pound and a half, 2 pounds, probably average.
Right.
You can imagine some of these smaller mature shad are certainly on the menu for bass,
Okay.
for the bigger bass. The 8
Right.
9 inchers.
Right.
And so I think in midsummer and as we're getting into later July, that's still a thing. Although mostly they're keying on the smaller, fry and juvenile shad that are starting to head downriver.
And then the other one to me, and when I was out there, I'm constantly trying to always learn something about these rivers, this river system, just because we're keeping, we keep coming back here, and we're going to keep coming back because I think the Pacific Northwest really wants us there. I think you guys want a big tournament circuit up there, and that's what BAM is. But the salmon smolt, is that one of those things that I look at these dams, I look at the way it's like, how the heck does salmon get all the way up there? I know how they get to the, into the ocean, from the ocean into the rivers. I know how they get into the Willamette. I know how they get into the Columbia. How do they get past these dams and get all the way up in there?
Yeah. Those so all of the dams until Grand Coulee have fish ladders.
Okay.
And so they swim around them. You can actually go to McNary and look at the fish ladder. There's windows, and you just sit there and watch these giant kings and stuff swim through, and there's some interns or whatever counting them with a little clicker.
Yeah.
So the salmon go that way, and they do pretty darn well for themselves navigating the dams. There is a little bit of mortality, I think, that's associated on the other way, for the smolt.
Right.
Making their way back down. They don't use the ladder. They fall through the spillways and through the turbines. But they do pretty good. I know salmon smolt are certainly on the menu for bass, but I personally rarely see them specifically targeting smolt. I don't know if that's just me or what, but I far more see bass targeting shad when they're running, or when they're not running, like the pelagic species that are in the grass, bluegill, perch, um, you know, small bass, and stuff like that.
Um, I think people have got an idea now. So what food they're going for, and I just keep asking that question because I think when people go up there, it's like, they really want to know. It's like, what am I targeting? I don't know what to target because that water is it's so clear you don't see them, but if you got the scopes, you're seeing what's in there,
Yeah.
and you know what to throw and what to
And
use.
I
Now,
shouldn't leave out. I should talk about crawdads as well.
oh yeah,
Every fish in the river is eating crawdads like a lot of the time, and so they're doing both in all those areas. And that's what's great about having rock and grass
yeah, I was gonna say, is
nearby.
that why you're looking for that raw? When I think of smallmouth, I don't want to speak for everybody, but when I think of smallmouth, I think of rock and what they're doing, and they're down there, they're flipping rocks and that sort of thing, getting those crawdads, and that something that they do in there, and are bottom baits effective in a river system that's flowing like that?
Not only the latest and greatest from the biggest brands, but the hard to find regional specialties as well. Tackle Warehouse. Click, save, fish.
Hey, Northern California bass anglers. Ready to elevate your fishing game? Ford Fairfield partners with Bass Angler Magazine to offer top-notch trucks tailored for your needs. Our simple pricing ensures a fair deal and exceptional service. We live and breathe bass fishing, participating in local tournaments to understand exactly what you need so you never miss a good bite. Visit Ford Fairfield today and let's hit the water together.
Absolutely, bottom baits are effective. But I would say that something that's really changed in the way I've fished the river the last few years, and particularly now that we can see them with five scope, is to see how the fish are relating to bottom and how they're reacting. I think when the fish are active this time of year, shatter in the river, bottom baits become drastically less effective.
Okay.
And it's really only this period of time. But I throw significantly more baits mid-water column than I ever have before, and it's made me a better angler.
All right, yeah. I mean, that's one of those things that I heard, just talking to guys, or when they come across the stage, or when it's the last day, they're saying, they say that I heard a lot about spinnerbaits, I heard a lot about chatterbaits, I heard a lot about just open, shads, just shad baits in general. So I'm guessing that that's what it was. There was a couple people talking about maybe some bottom baits, but maybe throwing a jig or throwing different things like that. But I have a feeling, and and I'm not giving away your baits. He's got a tournament coming up, so we're not gonna talk too much about the exact baits he was throwing. But I'll still ask him in a minute. But it's like, is that kind of what you're talking about when you are focusing on mid column? You're looking at that chatterbait, you're looking at that spinner bait, you're looking at just minnow baits in general, pea heads with a Kitech on it, or something, things like that.
Yeah, for sure. And it depends on where you're fishing too. So like I was fishing a lot of my tournament, not all of it, but a lot of the tournament I spent, in 10 feet or less. There's a lot of grass in the river. So you have to throw something. And like a chatterbait and a spitterbait are baits that both target effectively grass and offer that profile of something that's in the middle of the column. And they're imitating a fish much more than a crawdad. And so those are really effective, and they draw reaction strikes. And we're fishing for smallmouth a lot. Smallmouth are crazy. They like reaction baits. They're really aggressive often. And so I think that those types of baits are really sitting in the wheelhouse for a pool like Umatilla and Boardman area, that those are going to be effective almost year round.
Well, day one you brought in a big fish. It was a 641. And if I'm not mistaken, that was a largemouth.
Yeah.
On day two, you brought in the biggest fish of the tournament in a 774, and I know that one was a largemouth. 22:08 on the first day, 21:35, 43:43 overall, and you hit the field and won by over 6 pounds, man. You went out after some big fish. You went and caught some big fish. Now, I told him in the beginning I wouldn't give up and make him give up his secret bait. Although I'll ask him, it's like, what were you catching those bigger fish? What were you targeting them with, and what was it that you know? If people are heading out there to the Columbia, what would you say? It's like, hey, pick up a drop shot. Is that is that what you were focusing on catching those great big fish with?
No, not a drop shot. And I think a drop shot is a great lure. It's been great on the river, and it's been a lot of fish caught on it. I don't think I had a drop shot on my deck at any point in the tournament.
I was trying to get that secret bait out of you, man. I know it was in there. It was a 6-inch margarita mutilator on a drop shot.
I'll talk a little bit more. I caught my good fish on the first day on big reaction baits. And I'll be honest, it was a glide bait.
Okay.
That didn't work as good on the second day, and I think that was more pressure related than anything. I had fished that area the day before, and had to slow down a little bit for him. But ultimately, kind of my search bait in practice, and how I was getting them to go on the first day was a glide bait.
Okay. I mean, I think this time of year, that's one of those baits that most people will pick up and throw. It's a great, if nothing else, it's a great search bait. Like you're finding that fish. Maybe it comes out, looks at it, sniffs it, turns around and goes back, or maybe it just devours it. And apparently, at least one of them did. So
yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Pretty good. I mean, it was definitely impressive to see something that those big old bass like that come out of there. I know that system is known for a better quality fish, but normally, like I said, most people are thinking smallmouth. Like, of catching a 6 and 7 pound smallmouth out there doesn't seem like something that's rare either.
Yeah, that big these days is getting a little bit more rare, I think.
Okay.
Particularly in that pool. There's so many fish in that pool. I think the smallmouth that struggle a little bit to compete with each other. Because I don't know if everyone weighed a limit, but there's a lot of fish in that lake. And I think those big smallmouth, and they chase current oriented bait. They don't get huge 5-6 pounds.
Right.
Often there are 5 and 6 pounders. I'm sure there's probably a 7 swimming around in there. In the Tri-Cities pool, more likely to run across that great big smallmouth. And I don't really know why it's that different. I mean, physiologically they look very similar.
Okay.
So
it's just a different way that thing fishes or sets up, or the food is different, or whatever kind of makes them get that extra half a pound or pound.
Yeah. In my opinion, it's related to the shad.
Okay.
Because there's so many more shad in that Boardman area, those smallmouth chase them, and it's like CrossFit basically. They just are in better shape, or they can spend a lot more time, milling around the shallows doing nothing, just opening their mouth and let a bluegill swim in up in Tri-Cities.
Oh, funny. It's they're going to the darn gym down in Umatilla. And what's really funny is I've asked so many people what the name of that pool is, and everybody just I don't know, it's the Boardman pool, Umatilla pool.
Umatilla pool
out
is
there,
the name. Yeah.
Anybody out there, you wondering what it is? It's the Umatilla pool. That's the first time I've heard it.
Yeah.
It said, so thanks for that. I will make sure that stays in my head for at least 10 minutes.
Yeah, we always call it Tri-Cities. The other one's Wallula. It's called the Wallula pool.
Wallula. Okay.
Yeah, nobody knows that, so it doesn't really matter.
It's going up that way, when you leave here, you're traveling, I'm guessing you came down and fished the entire circuit, right? You're trying to make the championship, or was this your only tournament?
This was actually my only tournament.
Okay.
I wanted to fish the Pacific Northwest. I think that's what it's called, division.
Yeah.
I really wanted to, but unfortunately the schedule just didn't work out for me. So I had some prior engagements. I really, actually, more than this tournament, I wanted to fish the Potholes one.
Right.
Potholes is my favorite lake. I feel really comfortable there. Um, and yeah, actually, my good buddy Mike Metkowski won that one.
Mhm.
And I was really disappointed I couldn't fish it, but I was like, at least I'll get to fish this one. So worked out for me.
I was gonna say, it sounds like it worked out pretty good for you. You know, walking away, you know, with a nice check right there. It's a great deal that these guys, you know, you're coming up and um, for the amount that you're paying, what Mark is asking you to pay, you come out and you get to fish a tournament like this and walk away with it's a pro-am event, and you're walking away with, you know, a little over 10 grand. That's an impressive payday right there for a division. You know, the Pacific Northwest, I don't see a ton of tournaments going up that way. You guys, you know, Mark brought this up there and have given you guys an opportunity. Potholes was the first one. This is the second one. You know, I hope that going forward, as Mark brings the BAM Trail back to the Pacific Northwest, guys realize that, you know what, this is real. One of the guys was up there, and everybody was sitting around kind of waiting for their checks, and people were leaving and, you know, taking off and not waiting. And I told him, I said, I feel like Mark does something so different in the fact that you don't have to leave without a check in your hand. He'll mail it to you if you take off, but if you stick around, you're walking out of there with a check. Is that just so different than how most of the normal pro-am events that are up there work?
I mean, it's different than it used to be for sure. Don't want to talk too much smack, but there's
Oh,
definitely an organization where you were hoping that check when you got it would cash. So
yeah.
yeah, so it's great to have that in our area. We also have Northwest Bass, which is kind of the primary circuit up here in Washington.
Okay.
It's a really good competitive circuit, but they're not pro-ams, they're team events, and
Okay.
much more regional, smaller tournaments. But also a lot of fun, hosted by Nixon's Marine. They do a fantastic job. But BAM bringing these bigger, higher level events with higher entry fees, bigger competition, and that pro-am style. It's really exciting. And like I said, I really want to fish the PNW division. I'm going to do my best to make that work next year.
You know, that's I really enjoy watching guys when they come out and fish the pro-ams like this, and they see that, what pretty much what you just said. It's like it brings out a level of competition from other guys. I mean, you were fishing against, you know, a Mark Pilgrim. You were fishing against a Greg Gutierrez. You were fishing against, you know, just a ton of really good Jake Arbuckles. You know, Boomer was up there. You know, there are big names that are coming out and fishing these events, and local guys like yourself who have the knowledge of the lake can go out there, or of the water, and they can go out there and compete. But you're still competing against guys who have been in the Bassmasters Classic, man. I mean, Greg Gutierrez has been in the Classic. This is a, you know, you're getting some big names that you're doing it. Ish Monroe would have been up there had he not qualified before.
Right.
You know, you got Aaron Britt coming up. I mean, there are some big names, man. How does that just, you know, I know when I was fishing pro-ams a lot, and I would go up there, I loved when Gary Dobbins showed up, and, you know, Rush would show up. All these guys would show up and fish, and it's like, I want to compete against those big names. How does that make you feel when, you know, when BAM brings that and these guys show up? And then you beat them.
Randall and I want to talk to you real quick about choosing the right electronics mount for your bass boat.
And we know the quality and effort that Van Foster has put into this company.
So what you get is a custom fitted mount, not some mass produced universal mount for every bass boat out there.
Seat pedestal plugs, tool holders, steering wheel spacers, and battery trays are all made with the same attention to detail that Bass Boat Technologies is known for. Check them out at bassboattech.com. You'll be glad you did.
Yeah, you know, it's really exciting. I would say, you know, my first big pro-am that I fished a couple years ago, that was pretty exciting to me. But I think you learn pretty quickly that the fish are fish, and that's what you're here to do, right? As much as you're competing against these other anglers, you're trying to catch the biggest and best fish that are in that pool, and that's your job, and so you just focus on that. But it is really cool to bring that kind of level of visibility that anglers like that bring to our area, and that BAM can bring to our area. And I think what you'll find is as BAM continues to come here, potholes in the river, and we got a couple other really nice fisheries. I think our fisheries are incredible. They're really, really good. They make great tournament locations and venues, and the fishing that we have up here in Washington, you'd think it would be maybe too northern, too cold, and that's just not the case.
Right.
We've got really, really great fisheries for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I was impressed by potholes. It was a smaller lake than I thought, but it was a bigger lake than I thought at the same time. It's like
Yeah.
when you first look at it, all you can see is this little short piece of it, and you go, "This is tiny. How are we going to get boats on this thing? What's going on?" This, Matt Kelsey comes up there and he takes that thing, and it's like you never saw him. It's like I have no idea where these guys are going, but they said, yeah, you would just get into an area, and this lake is big. When you look at it on a map, you go, wow, it's just laid out really weird. The river is obviously it's giant. I mean, it's an impressive thing to be on it. It's impressive to be around it, and I still have never locked through anything. And we were sitting right there, one of the locks. I'm like, I just want to just take me up and down. We can't get back. And it's like,
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care. I'll walk home. I'll walk home. But it's just one of those things that, man, I mean, it's just like you said, you do have some impressive waterways up there. I think I went into Tri-Cities. I checked that out in there. I think there's some beautiful parts of the river up there. And if you're talking about it's a lot different to fish. I mean, Mark is very open-minded, and he has been listening to what you guys are telling him. And I have, we've talked about some different bodies of water besides just potholes and the river. It's like there are some very interesting places he would like to go. And when you're talking about either a Pro-Am or a Super 60, with the Super 60 we can go a few more places because we can go smaller.
Yeah.
With the Pro-Am, if the boats show up, and I'm hoping they do, I'm hoping that you guys go, you know what, these guys are for real. The show that we put on is different than what I think a lot of people are used to, and a lot of you anglers that are up there don't see that. I mean, not taking anything away from Nixon's Marine and what they do and the show they put on, but I have a feeling we just go a little bit above and beyond that.
Oh, I mean, that's not a question. I don't think it's offensive to anybody to say that either. Like, it is a different thing. It's a different animal. It's much bigger. And the level of competition is bigger. It draws people from further away. And Northwest Bass can or even wants to, I suspect.
Yeah.
And so I think they're a little bit of a different animal. But yeah, there's definitely some great bodies of water. Coeur d'Alene is one that sticks out in my mind.
And I believe that's one that we actually, I think Mark has talked about. Now I'm not putting any names out there as far as, we're going to go here. We're going to go. I have no control over that.
Yeah.
I just know that he has listened to you guys. He's listened to other anglers, and and they're like, hey, you should really try this out, or you should really try that one out, or this is a great body of water.
Yeah.
It's the communities around the water, I think, is what is really going to pull us.
Yeah.
When we come up there, we're dropping some, there's some coin that has to
absolutely
to make it that way. And if we can get communities that go, you know what, we'd love to have that kind of attention pulled up here, let's do that. By all means, get a hold of Mark Lassane and let's get us up there. But that's one of the things. But I think it's great. I mean, what you just did, like I said, I don't take away what you did was amazing, because going against the full field and not having that last day, and not to take away from anybody else that has ever won these events that is like, oh, I only had to fish against 10 guys. It's like, that's not true at all. You fished against 65 boats, but you did it 65 boats with a shortened field, and you had to do it 2 days to win. Not just 65, okay, I made the top 10, now I can go out and do it. And you did it impressive. I mean, I felt really, really bad for Gary. The way we had to sit him in that chair, and he sat there all the entire way in. He's sitting over there in the baking down sun. Everything just like there, and then you walk up and it's like the last guy to weigh in.
Yeah.
And you just smoke him. It's like, oh man, that had to suck for him.
Yeah. I felt bad, especially
no, you did
knowing.
not.
Knowing he's just sitting there baking in the sun. I did.
I mean, he drank like 4 bottles of water
Yeah.
and got up out of that chair 3 times. It's just like I gotta go. I just like, oh man, I did feel bad for him on that part for a little bit. It's not really my thing. Randy's sitting over on the other side as a co-angler in the shade.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a great way. And the great way, I mean, it was to me, it was just a really cool way that you did it. Being the last guy to weigh in, I felt like, he knew that you were on fish. I could see him up there and he kept kind of he goes, there's still one. There's still one. There's still,
Yeah.
he kind of kept saying that under his breath. And it's like, I had a feeling that he knew you were coming up, and behind me, I could hear you guys kind of, he's like, oh, did you get him good or whatever? And he was, so that part, I feel like he knew he was sitting there and he was kind of waiting for that other shoe to drop, but he sat through a lot of anglers. I will give it to him. That guy came out. I mean, you beat him by 6 pounds, but he was right there on the back with 37 was a heck of a weight to put up over 2 days on that body of water.
Absolutely.
He did a great job.
I mean, I was surprised by the weights in general. Going into this tournament, I was thinking you need to have 15, 16 pounds plus a big one. So that gives you 17, 18. And if you do that 2 days in a row, you're probably going to win.
Yeah. I mean, you're 30, but that's what he had, 36, 37 pounds.
Yeah.
He had it.
That 24-pound bag is impressive. And it's actually, I don't know if it is the case, but it's the biggest bag that I'm aware of that came out of that pool exclusively.
Wow.
And so that's a big bag. I was first flight day one. I was actually the first angler to weigh in on day one and the last angler to weigh in on day two. So after day one, I weigh in 22 pounds.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, bite was pretty good. How did everybody else do? That held out until the very last flight. And I mean, Gary had to have been one of the last people to weigh in on day one. And
yeah, I think he was either second to last or last. Yeah, I mean, because he comes up and I mean, you had 22:08 and it was sitting there for a long
time. I had like a 4-pound lead until then.
Yeah,
and I was feeling really good. I had big fish. It was great.
The good news is you kept the big fish, because I don't think he dropped a bigger fish than that one on.
He did.
Oh, did he?
He dropped that 712. I got.
Oh, that's right. He had the 7. He was the one that had the 712.
Yeah,
that's right. He had the 712.
He got it all. So I got my revenge.
There you go. Yeah, because I'll tell you what, when that was the part that I'm sitting there. I'm going, he's sitting on 22:08. Gary's sitting up there with 37. But you're sitting on 22:08. And it's like, if that guy gets anywhere near, if Zackery comes up here and he gets anything close to that 20 pounds, man, this is going to be really close. And then you just dropped a 21:35, pull out a 7:74. It's like, are you kidding me? This just got crazy.
Yeah, that was exciting. That was so cool.
And being the last angler, it was just like, wow, we couldn't. I mean, I don't know that we did, if we did script it or not, but we couldn't have scripted it any better, right?
I was last flight. They did push me to the back a little bit.
Yeah.
For the dramatic effect.
Absolutely. Hey, it's a show and we're putting it on, man.
Yeah.
I feel like, when I'm up there and I want to make sure that, you guys get the best, excitement for what you come up. When you come up on that stage, I want it to be exciting for you guys. That's one of those things that's like, I look out there and I go, I really wish the crowd was in the thousands.
Yeah.
Now that would be most of Boardman, but it's one of those things that's like, I really want to, when I'm calling your guys' names and I'm bringing you up on that stage, I want to hear them get loud. I want to hear it get crazy out there. But unfortunately, we're not drawing the crowds quite yet. So, but it'll come, it'll happen. These guys, it'll work out. But what you did, man, was just amazing. It was a great job out there. You talked about you have that Northwest tournament coming up. When you see weights like what you had, do you think that it's going to get better going forward, or is it going to get worse? as far as what weights and things like that?
You mean like in general, or like
For
just
this,
this
well, for
year?
this
Like
next
this
turn, no,
year?
for this next, yeah, for this next tournament. I mean, as far as like, we're coming up there for the Super 60. Do you think that we're going to see Super 60 anglers dropping, 43 and 37 pounds on the scales
Uh,
for 2 days?
can they
Because on the
lock? Can
third
they
day,
lock
they're,
up?
I don't know. That's a good question right there. On
I'm
the
not
Super
sure
60,
if
I
they
don't.
can
I
lock
think they
up.
can lock. I think they can lock up. They can't lock down, but I'm not positive on that.
Yeah,
That's a Bray
if they can
and
lock
Hossein
up,
thing.
maybe. I would say like it's hard to say.
Mm-hmm.
I felt. I mean, ultimately, I caught a bigger bag than I thought I was going to. Um, and both days, I thought I was on them pretty good, but I do think you have to. I mean, there's got to be a couple elements mixed in there. Like if it was super slick, calm,
Yeah.
I think it would have been really hard um, to do better than I did. I needed that weather to cooperate with me and break up the surface to make those
Okay.
big largemouth a little bit more susceptible to being caught.
Okay.
Um, but I needed it to not be so bad that I couldn't fish my area, well. And so I think it just kind of set up really nicely for me. But I think we also saw like it was a big field, and not everybody was able to do that. And Gary wasn't able to repeat that.
Right.
There's a certain amount like that's a limited resource. There's not 7-pounders everywhere, and there's not that many of them. And so I think it'll be hard to kind of duplicate that exactly. Somebody's going
Right.
to drop a big bag, guaranteed, in the Super 60. At least one day, though. I think there's going to be, up, 23, 24 pounds
Okay.
possible.
Yeah, and that's the tough one with the Super 60 because, and it, one of the guys said it really good when he came on stage. He goes, "I can't wait until the Super 60, in the sense that I caught like 300 bass today."
Yeah. Yeah.
When you've got Tourney X on your side, you've got to go out there and you got to, everything over 14-inch counts. Well, I have a feeling they're going to spend some time on Tourney X, and that thing's going to light up. And if you guys are out there and you want to watch the Tourney X, watch it, because I have a feeling. I think last year it was like, I think it was Colby Pearson who ended up like 120 bass or something came across his Tourney X. Like I think Greg Gutierrez was like that. Colby Pearson, I think it was a couple other guys too, but there were some just like massive numbers caught. That's what I think is most impressive about there is I caught a fish last year. I caught a fish, had him on a whopper plopper, and he comes up. The whopper plopper pops out, and 3 other bass are scrambling to get that bait, and they're all in that 4 to 5 pound range of smallmouth. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, this is just very cool.
Yeah. Particularly when it sets up like it does for this, late summer tournament down there where they get in these big schools.
Yeah.
It's wild. It is so much fun to fish. I sort of was struggling in practice from that desire to go do that. Like I wanted to go catch all those fish. It's so much fun. I just didn't think that I could
I'm in a
consistently
tournament
win
though.
that way. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I don't think I didn't think I could win by doing that this
Right.
time. And frankly, I didn't think that because I thought somebody was going to lock up and kick my butt.
No.
But so I practiced, all over the river, in the upper pool, in Boardman area. I ran all the way down to the John Day, trying to find something special.
Wow. That's that's one of those things, when they're going up, the, with the Super 60, they get cut, The one nice thing that even if you guys would have had cut day and it would have dropped down to 10, you'd have kept your weight. They don't get that option.
Yeah.
They go through cut day and it's like, oh, everybody has 0. Good luck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Catching all those fish, you got to change it up again.
Yeah. I mean, that brings a strategy element to it.
Oh my God. You really ought to try to make it. It's pretty fun. It's one of those things that river, I just think I mean, it was just a lot of fun. Anybody wants to out there that ever thinks about, God, I should go up there and fish the Columbia and try it out. I mean, is there, you talked about this pool right here, the Umatilla pool. You've talked about I think you said like Woola Woola or Walla Walla or the
Wallula.
Wallula, that one there. Where would you send people? It's like, hey, if you're going to make the run, you're going to come up this way, and you're going to, you're coming out of California, you're coming out of, wherever. If you're Idaho, you name it, you're coming over you want to fish this thing. Which one would you point them to first of all?
We've paired one of the most iconic hulls in the history of bass boats with a proven lineup of trusted accessories. We're bringing you best-in-class value and performance, leaving others in your wake. Turnkey value, turnkey performance. The Pantera 2 is an overachiever in the 19-foot category. Once you hit the throttle, you'll feel the rush, and there's no looking back.
It's not even a question for me. It's Umatilla.
Okay.
It is so much more fun. The Tri-Cities pool has big giant fish in it. It is way harder. It's way harder to have fun. And in the Umatilla pool, if it's windy, which it gets legitimately really bad, there are areas, above, like near Aragon and above, that you can kind of hide out and still catch a lot of fish and have fun. The majority of the fish in the Tri-Cities pool are, kind of in this Finley area where the river gets really wide and there's a lot more grass. And that place is just horrific to be when it's windy, and it's always windy there. So, it's just a lot more challenging to fish. And there's a lot fewer fish. So if it's just purely for fun, definitely the Umatilla pool.
Okay. There, one of the other things we saw when we were up on potholes going into that event, almost everybody I talked to was, I'm going to go out there and I am going to frog. That's all I heard. Frog.
Mm-hmm.
I heard it a couple times. Is the river compatible with frogs? I mean, is it something that you can go out there? I think when I think frogs, I think that sort of thing, big grass mats. There wasn't a ton of big grass mats. Not like you didn't see a big cheese mat or things like that. Is it still something that's viable up there, and do you throw it at all?
It definitely is viable. I had one on my deck on day one. I caught a fish on it. It did not cull or anything. So yeah, I would say yes, frog fishing is viable. Gary said he caught a couple of fish on frogs. I think his big fish on frogs day one. And I wouldn't actually doubt that. I think that could be possible. Ultimately, the grass can, touches the surface in a lot of areas, and a frog is a good way to catch them. The difficulty I have with it is that, a lot of the froggy areas, the areas that I want to frog this time of year, are smallmouth, and you do not hook up a lot of smallmouth on a frog. The fish I caught on it was a smallmouth, but I saw a lot of big ones hit it and come out of the air, and there's just no chance I'm going to catch that fish. So,
okay, but I mean, but topwater though is still viable up there, right? I mean, that's like something that you're going off to. Is it one that is there a better topwater bait that you would throw on that river system? I mean, I know you got to be around grass, but you got to be around those rocks too. And I mean, I was throwing some topwater. I just love the Whopper Plopper. It's one of my favorite baits to throw, so I throw it a lot. But is topwater something this time of year? And the other thing I say this time of year, because I asked when we were out, I was like, Mark's fished up there quite a few times, and there's a lot of guys that I talked to who fished up there a few times, and they, is this the best time of year to fish up there, or is there like, no, it's better here, it's better there, or are we hitting it in the peak?
I think we're hitting it in the peak for sure.
Okay,
maybe not the highest, individual weights, but definitely the most fun fishing and the highest average weight probably for the tournament. So I think the timing's perfect. It's a real fun time to fish. The Shattern River, you can kind of do anything. And you were talking about topwater. I know a lot of people are catching a lot of their bigger fish on topwater. And you could throw a topwater in 60 feet of water and still catch fish. So yes, it's definitely topwater season. And I said I was using a glide bait. The reason I was using a glide bait instead of a topwater was because it was too windy for me to feel like I was effectively presenting my topwater all the time. And so I was using my river to sea S-Waver as a underwater walking bait.
Okay, that makes sense. The other thing is there's always, when we get up there, there's always guys who go out and they're like, in practice, I did this or did that. What is the situation with, like, do they get in the way? Do you catch them on side? But the walleye that are in there, because I've heard some guys are like, I don't want to be around the walleye. I don't want to be near them. You don't want them in your fishery. If you're catching walleye, you're not going to catch bass. I've heard that. I mean,
that's
what is
just
it?
Untrue.
Is it?
Yeah. The walleye and bass don't typically school together. You don't often see them in the same school. But they school next to each other for sure. So
okay. So it's not necessarily detrimental that they're there.
No, not at all. And I have a story from a couple of years ago. I had a co-angler who's from California. He's like a big bait guy, and he had like these freaking giant gizzard shad glide baits. And I was throwing little tiny baits, imitating shad babies and stuff, and catching. Right. I had a pretty good bag, and we're in 35 feet of water, and he throws out this 9-inch glide bait, and I think he's absolutely insane. And he caught like a 12-pound walleye.
Wow!
On the same spot that I was catching, 3 and 4 pound smallmouth. They definitely, they just live in the river. They cohabitate, for sure. And I would say up and down the Columbia River, often, if you're fishing for smallmouth, anywhere that's near deep water, if you're 10 feet or more, if you turn around and just cast out in the middle of the river, there's probably walleye there.
Okay. And there's another thing that goes on up there, and this is I'd love the fact that I have a local guy up there because he can answer the questions that I was out there going, what the heck are these guys doing? They're like putting nets out to catch. What are they netting, and how do you? Is there a way that for guys that are going up there, people that are going up there, they want to listen to this thing, they listen to this show, and they get up there. It's like, there's like buoys out there everywhere. Are those nets? Are you supposed to avoid them? How do you avoid them? That sort of thing. Or and what are they netting?
I actually didn't see that while I was out there. But I do know there are a lot of nets that are used on the Columbia. And those are, I don't know which tribe, but one of the Native American tribes would be a group that's associated with them, probably the Umatilla tribe, or something like that. And they're just fishing in the way they historically have fished for centuries, and it's been protected. I think federally that they can do that, and they've worked with both Oregon and Washington state governments to set boundaries and rules on how those nets are used. Typically, I think they're primarily fishing for salmon. With those, a lot of those nets aren't really bass oriented, although I'm sure there is some bycatch.
Of course.
But typically you see them harvesting salmon, and then you can usually just go buy that stuff like peak salmon season, and get super fresh salmon out of the river, which is fantastic. So I don't have to stop bass fishing and go salmon fishing. I can just go get some at the marina or whatever.
Nice. Are they something that you have to avoid on the water? Or are those nets just in the? Is it?
Yeah,
that what the buoys are?
That's what the buoys are marking, the ends of the nets.
So don't go between the buoys.
Yeah, I don't go between the buoys if you can avoid it. You're probably okay in the very middle. The buoys aren't suspended right below the surface, or the nets aren't suspended right beneath the surface.
Right.
But you definitely want to avoid those.
Okay. Well, Zachary, this is that time where I usually give you guys about 10 minutes at the end of the show. We've just listened to you talk about how you want it. We just listened to you talk a lot about the river, about some of the great fishing up there in the Pacific Northwest. Zackery Shaff, I'm giving you your time right now to talk to everybody out there about who you are, how you're doing this whole thing, how they can reach you, how they can follow you, how you're who sponsors you out there. This is your time, man. Take these last 10 minutes and tell everybody a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, I don't really know what to do with myself in this sort of scenario, so I'll do my best. Um, so I'm from the Tri-Cities area, born and raised here in Richland. I've been fishing the river my whole life. First time I ever caught a fish in Casey's Pond, I was like 3 years old. It's a 3-pound smallmouth on a worm, and I just fell in love with it. And have been doing it ever since, really. I do want to take this time to thank everybody who supported me through this. My wife in particular, who puts up with me fishing all the time, and even went with me on a pre-fish tournament or a pre-fish trip earlier in the year to Lake Roosevelt for a few days. So that was super fun. And my family, my dad's a big bass fisherman too. So we've spent a lot of time fishing together. We fish team tournaments together. And really want to thank all of those people for supporting me all these years. I even borrowed some of my dad's fishing tackle and rods and stuff for this tournament. So that's awesome. I also want to thank some of my sponsors. Got Dobbins rods, and I've been using them for years, probably 10 at this point. I can't remember. But fantastic rods. And I'm a big river fisherman, smallmouth guy. I like to throw reaction baits, and I hands down think that the actions and the quality of those rods for moving baits is second to none. They have perfect action to get really good casts, hook those big smallmouth and hold them pinned, even though they're jumping. If you're throwing like these big spooks and stuff, like a lot of people are throwing, and I love to throw here. You got to have the right setup to keep those fish pinned and get them in the boat. I also want to thank Nixon's Marine and Camus boats. I drive a Camus, and that boat really has unlocked a lot of the river for me, because I know I can go places that I couldn't go in my previous boat, because I have so much bow control. I drove a CX-21, and it really allows me to go places in the river and know that I can get back if the wind gets up. And it really helped me actually in this tournament, both during the tournament days, but particularly on the last day of practice. The last day of practice, it got windy. And I was pretty far away from the ramp. I launched out of Boardman that day, and I knew I had time and I could get myself back, so I could keep fishing and finding a couple more spots. And one of those spots played big in the tournament for me.
Okay. Is that you in a nutshell, man? Do you have social media? Are you out there? People can go, you know what? I like what this guy had to say. I want to follow him a little bit. Where do they find you, man?
I'll be honest, that is me. I don't really have a social media presence. My name is Zackery Shaff. I'm on Facebook. So if people do want to follow me, I do post fishing stuff, but really just stuff I want to post. And you can find me there on Facebook. And this is something I need to develop a little bit better, get more interested in it. Cause I'm kind of a river rat. I like to fish. That's what I like to do. But I want to continue to grow within the sport in this way. And so, yeah, I absolutely need to get on my game a little bit better. But I'm on Facebook. You can find me there.
All right, man. You know what? You went out. You did a great thing. You won a major tournament up on the Columbia River at a Boardman, Oregon. You are the champ, and no one can take that away from you, man. You are that forever. Zach, thank you very much for coming on and doing this show. Everybody, thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you didn't get any knowledge out of this one, do it like I always say. Go back and listen to it again, and remember to share it with your friends. We will see you in a couple of weeks with another great angler just like Zackery Shaff right here. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.